Welcome back to the metaverse. It is your hosts here, me, Shawn, and Nathan.
I'm Nathan. Welcome back. Good to see
And
everybody.
yeah, and we also have a special guest here today, a very special guest, Wafic. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name is Wafic. Happy to be here on the metaverse.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, Wafic. Really glad to have you here.
All right, let's start with some introductions here. Tell us a little about yourself, Wafic.
Okay, based out of Chicago. Um I don't know. I guess I've been spiritual my whole life. Just kind of had to find my way through the muck, if you will. Um Started getting into seriously getting into ETs, CE5, Dr. Greer probably about 4 years ago. I've done I don't know how many CE5 expeditions, if you will, over the past 3 years. I cannot count how many. Um, yeah, I'm really into what's out there and knowing more about this vehicle we call a human body.
That is very. I'm so fascinated by C5. I want to do it with you and by myself eventually with maybe with Nathan. That'll be neat. And it's used as a calling, but also like as a tool. I think for human evolution, ascension. I think that's what it's not just to communicate with ETs. They like to be called ETs, as we discussed this in previous talks. Correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The word alien kind of has well, if you think about it, words have certain powers to them when you say things a certain way. So when we hear the word alien, us here, we think of like people crossing borders, or just like an outside force, which
Hmm.
is like has a very negative energy about it. So the proper and correct term would be extraterrestrials, or extra dimensional beings.
I haven't heard that one. Extra dimensional, but that's hard to say. Extra dimensional.
Extra dimensional.
You say C5. Can you just explain exactly what C5 means
Yeah,
for some people who might not know?
Yeah, for sure. So CE5 essentially stands for Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. When you're referencing close encounters, you have levels 1 to 5. A CE1 would be like seeing a UFO in the sky. A CE2 would be like a physical manifestation such as crop circles. Um, Close Encounters of the Third Kind is actually getting invited up onto a craft. Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind escapes me. I'll be honest. I
I
can't think of
think you
that.
got. I think you got it mixed up.
Did I
It's
get it mixed up?
yeah. Third kind is seeing an actual ET. Fourth
Okay.
kind is being on a craft, and
And
then
then
fifth.
the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is human initiated contact with extraterrestrials.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Been a long day, long week,
Yeah, for all of us. The
whole world.
whole world exactly. But yeah, I am so fascinated, and I want to get into this. But the thing is, like, where do we begin? I want to go with if Nathan has any questions so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say where to begin would be where did you begin? Like, what got you into, like, when did you even first believe that extraterrestrials could be or are out there? And then how did you do the process of like getting into this kind of group that encounters them?
That is a excellent question. A seriously excellent question that kind of I, I hate to use the term, but it really does time travel back and forth with like how I came to the realization of what I'm actually like, encountering. So I would probably say maybe like 7th grade, really, when like you start to really geek out on certain topics, whether it be science, math, automotive, whatever the case is, whatever classes you're taking around that time. I was really, really into astronomy. I loved learning about other planets, and it didn't hit me until I saw a picture of another star bigger than our sun's. And that just really put things into perspective for me, like, whoa, like we're nothing. We're so small in this universe of what they're telling me is endless potential, like infinite darkness out in any direction. Um Started watching really Dr. Greer's first video, which was Sirius, Sirius, where they actually had a ET humanoid, the Atamaka ET, I guess is what they call it. They actually took that and they did DNA sequencing on it, and they found that it was not of this earth. They couldn't put it on any type of DNA scale. So that was like the first like legitimate documentary that I saw that really woke me up to Dr. Greer, his work, and then leading me to where I am now.
Very interesting. Now in the movie when they're doing the DNA testing, uh, is there? I haven't watched that movie, so I don't know like where you can find this information.
You can find all of Dr. Greer's work on Amazon. I believe if you have Amazon Prime, it's available. I believe Sirius and Unacknowledged both are available on Netflix, but you can also find them for free on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, I did buy his latest. One of his latest ones was Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and I rented Unacknowledged. So
Yeah.
those were pretty good. I love those ones.
Yeah, he actually has a fourth one that came out last year, which was the expose on the whole like special access projects and like really diving deep into like the government cover up side of things while keeping the spirituality aspect of it.
Hmm.
Uh, Pretty interesting. Like he shows a lot of cool footage in the documentaries.
I think Nathan had a question. Did
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. So, did you like? How did you get connected with him or the group of people that you've met with?
So when Close Encounters of the Fifth, actually, I'll be really, really honest. Dr. Greer as a person didn't appear in my life until he actually showed up on Logan Paul's podcast in 2019 of Impulsive. He was on that podcast and he had shown a photo of a man who had his hearing healed by an ET. And I waited a whole year for that documentary to come out and then watched the documentary. But it wasn't until maybe 2 years ago that I formed my own, like, Facebook group and, just started inviting people near me. Because the app itself, he has an app that he developed for everybody, and it has, like, a built-in tracker where you can, like, see people close to you that have the CE5 app, and then you can kinda connect and, like, coordinate and, like, plan your own little CE5 events and such.
I had actually a couple people reach out, but one person reached out, added me on Facebook, my old Facebook. I don't have it anymore. But he was like, I had a contact with an extraterrestrial, and then he had like it was like glow in the dark. It looked like a glow in the dark tattoo was engraved on his skin.
Hmm.
And he said Stephen Greer came to contact me and came to like investigate and see what was going on. But they didn't. They just kept an eye on it, and that was it. Like I don't know. I have no update of what happened because this person wasn't very responsive all the time. I don't know. I just like left it as that conversation, but
Yeah.
um yeah, it was interesting to see that you can just contact anybody on there using the app, and everybody has a story to tell. So
Yeah. Yeah. They really, really do. My group grew from I think like the first 3 months was maybe like 6 people, and before I passed it on to, one of my mods, Tuesday, 2 Tuesday, I just passed it on to her, um, that day, but now we're up to like 130 people, so
this is the
it's got
Facebook group.
yeah, it's, CE5 Contact Chicago Suburbs.
Okay, okay.
If you're ever in Chicago and you're trying to find an event to do in spring and summer, go there.
Definitely.
Oh, that's
Definitely.
cool. So you kind of started a group and now it's like grown and expanded.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, I had a question. Okay, I kind of know how it's done, not exactly, but could you go over how a CE5 contact is initiated and how you can just do it with a group of people even if you're far distances apart from each other?
So the long distance part, I haven't really talked to anybody about. That's just kind of something that I do, and I've seen results with it. So I can't speak on the entire community of CE5ers, I guess, if that's what you want to call us. But
Mhm.
um, how it initially goes is, you have your group of people, whether it be by yourself, 5 people, up to 25 people. Um, you kind of spend the day together to build that cohesion because when you're making contact, you want to do it in the most positive space possible because that's the feeling you're trying to project.
Mhm.
And follow the theory that like interacts with like, it's better to do that when your group is fully cohesive with each other. There's no animosity, there's no angst, there's no nothing. You're all there for one true purpose and to share that you're all there to make contact genuinely. But once you have cohesion established, you kind of follow the steps of the app. There's tones that will be played. You play the tones for a while, then you go into Dr. Greer's meditation. It's about 20 minutes or so. And you kind of do this thing he calls coherent thought sequencing, which the way I like to describe it is if you ever like take a look on Google Maps where you are and you see how zoomed in it is,
Mhm.
and then you slowly start to zoom out where you see your city, and then you see other cities, and then you see your state, your country, so on and so forth. And you just continually expand all the way out to the outer rings of the Milky Way. But the coherent thought sequencing is a vector for ET. So when you project that into the universe, the theory is that ETs pick up on that thought sequencing and are able to slowly zoom in to where you are, and that's how you make contact.
So like I totally understand it because like when you're thinking outward, they're basically kind of like reversing that into like a photographic image and they're just zooming in back like the other way.
Kind of, yeah. Like think of a satellite dish that sends out signals out to hit a satellite, and then the satellite sends a message back. So once you put your satellite signal out and they pick up on it, then you kind of slowly, I don't want to say reel them in, but essentially you pull them into where you are. And if it's safe enough for them to actually manifest in 3-dimensional space, they will do so in a number of different ways.
That is it's exciting news to hear. Um Nathan?
So just as you say, the three-dimensional space then for them to manifest in a three-dimensional space. So like what kind of space would you describe them occupying? And like, is there a transformation then in their own dimensional way? I'm just trying to wrap my head around that.
So think about it this way. Us as humans are only capable of seeing so much color with our eyes. We're only capable of hearing such a high frequency. But because those are our limitations, doesn't mean that's the limitations of the world. So there's a full spectrum of color we can't even see. There's a whole spectrum of frequency we can't hear. So to say that they're not living here is almost silly. And that's just my opinion because just because we can't see them doesn't mean it's there. And that just goes back to like, that old expression, if a tree fell in a forest and nobody was there to hear it, did it really happen? But when you're dealing with beings that are consciously more developed than we are, and that for some people is kind of a hard pill to swallow, thinking like we're the center of the universe, which I'm sorry, but fuck no. We're just not. We're not even close. But there are civilizations way more consciously advanced than we are. We're not even, there's different civilization levels. There's, type 0, which we are, and a type 1, and the difference is on a type 1 everyone is consciously connected in unity consciousness. So they operate in a space of being where, we may not even be able to comprehend because we haven't had that on Earth. So for them to shift from a higher dimensional state to a lower dimensional state, there is some type of transformation because they could be a body just like you and I, but instead of made of flesh, they're made of light. So to come down from a higher dimensional space to a lower dimensional space, you have to have, a transformation of your physiology. And how that manifests is really up to how they want to show themselves to you.
Yeah. So they kind of have to like I wouldn't I'm trying to say this like in the like at least not a rude way, but they have to kind of like downgrade themselves just to get into our level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um yeah, no, that's like saying no, not even cuz ants, like I was going to say comparing humans to bugs, but that's not even a good comparison because we're both living in a three-dimensional space.
It's more like Mario. Like he gets the mushroom, he levels up, but if he has to get through this like corridor to get underground, and he has to be smaller, so he has to get hit,
Right.
type of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
we're just like Mario. I like the reference. That's great. Um,
Yeah.
uh, so I would like to kind of just hear a little bit more about the process in a sense. So, like, there's a series of tones that
Yes.
you listen to, and that kind of sets the mood for the meditation and the coherent thought sequencing. So it's like there's a preparation of the group in like in like almost like funneling in this intention, right? In a sense, and getting trying to get out of that the physical realm that we're so accustomed to into that spiritual realm, which is kind of what you're saying, where these beings kind of live. In the way that I can think about it, I think of it in that idea of like a spiritual realm, right? One that we can't see. Um,
That's definitely somewhere where they could go, like they could definitely choose to kind of operate there. But when you're talking about like the never-ending endlessness of space, all we know is Earth. We really don't know how things are out there. So for me to, tell you, like, my speculation is one thing, but to tell you what actually is going on, I have no clue. I would be lying to you if I knew. Um it's hard to say because, like, with me, I've had several different types of contact experiences. I would say more than half of the time, it's almost a dreamlike state. I have astral projected, in the past, so that is something that things become a lot more clear to me when I'm in that state. But, you know, it's weird to I've never really said a lot of this out loud before. Just because 'cause I'm so new to kinda sharing my experiences outside the group. So forgive me if I stutter, but
Okay.
it's I'll give you an example of kinda how things started for me, and we can kinda build off of that. So, when I first started doing CE5s, I did them by myself, and, I would sit in my apartment, and then I would go outside, and maybe, I don't know, 3 months went by, saw nothing, and then out of nowhere, my apartment's pretty well lit, in a suburb of Chicago, it's pretty well lit, you're not gonna see much starlight. And I have a video of this, and I'll share this with you guys, but there's, what I thought was a star, but it was kinda, like, changing colors and moving, and I was like, "Could this be the moon?" And the moon was way off in another direction, there was no other stars. I checked, like, a star map app to make sure it wasn't a star, it wasn't, and I just kinda zoomed in and out on it, and it's just this little light that's just changing from, like, white to blue to green to red and kinda, like, phasing in and out. That's what started for me. Um, And ever since then, it's just kind of been a different experience every time I go into the CE5 state.
So I just wanted to comment. Like you said, it took about approximately 3 months after you did the first contact. Now, usually, does it take that long, or does it like, or is it more like you camp and like maybe in the week, like you're camping, that it like will happen one of those nights, or like is it like more in like more faster?
It all depends. Like, so for me, the first 3 months I was by myself. I didn't meet up with anybody, and a lot of that was because it was winter. And in Chicago, winters are terrible. I don't wish them upon anybody. You probably have an idea of what it is in Canada, but yeah, it's they're not fun here. Like, it's it's kind of silly that I say 4 degrees Fahrenheit is like comfortable weather for me. So that's when I say like, okay, it's cold, but yeah, 3 months is what kind of it took for me, and this kind of goes back to like your own spiritual journey, what you believe in, what you've been conditioned to believe, and then how much of that you have to break down before you actually can step into another level. Albert Einstein actually said you can't solve a problem on the same level of consciousness that you found out about the problem. You have to jump consciousnesses to solve that problem.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Think of like being a child, children or like infants, uh, they're at a different like spiritual state level. And I was convinced that this toddler I was watching was seeing ghosts, like just what he was expressing to me, and how, and he couldn't really put it into words, but um, there's different, kind of like what you say, the conditioning, right? Like I feel like we're so conditioned to this, like you say, the spectrum of light that we can see, or the spectrum of sounds that we can see. We've just been so conditioned into it that we have a hard time grasping the fact that there is colors out there that we can't see, or that there is a spiritual dimension that is beyond us, because we keep getting more and more conditioned into what our immediate reality looks like, right? So it's like you, in that 3 months, it's a process. It's not just going to happen right away. You have to continuously try to set yourself out of that conditioning, in a sense, if that sounds about right.
absolutely 100% right. And I'll even add to it where if I had started CE5 with like I was more open with like my main friend group and told them they should all do it with me, I probably would have made contact sooner. But I'm kind of the oddball in my group of friends. So they're kind of like, okay, yeah, Wafic, whatever, you talk to aliens. But it wasn't until they started seeing the pictures that they're like, okay, you got something going on and we kind of need to figure this out. But yeah, 100% right. I found that it's a very big pill for a lot of people to swallow, that they are not the center of the universe as they thought they were. So when you get over that hump, and I'm no different. I had to go through that as well. Um when you go through that and you realize it's not so much about you, it's about everything and everyone, that type of openness, and you genuinely mean it, that is what literally triggers a contact event to happen that much faster.
Everything you say is just so exciting for me. And I wanted to get into one of the topics you wanted to talk about. Well, what else? First of all, what else have you seen? You said you saw the orb. Have you seen a craft materialize, or maybe ETs firsthand?
So I've seen a number of different things. For a while, when I was living in my apartment at the time, I would see little flash bulbs. So little quick flashes of light, maybe smaller than a ping pong ball, right? Just flash in my apartment, and I would look over and they'd be gone. And I'd look another way and they'd be there. And they would, this is gonna sound so crazy, but they would mess with me So they'd always show up right around my where my laundry machines were, and it'd be like a reminder for me to go do laundry. Or they would go over my dishwasher and they would make me do dishes because my wife needs help with, housely chores and stuff, so I'm there to help her.
Yeah.
Um, but I get caught up in my own stuff. So they would do that as a reminder. Um, there was an event where we were out from like 6 p.m. to midnight. And we watched the sunset. It was really nice, but then all of a sudden it got real cloudy. Like super, super cloudy. Couldn't see any stars, no moon. And the group manifested that a circle opened up before we ended the night. 11:45 hits, sure as shit, a giant circle forms in the clouds and we can see right through. We saw a few craft zip by, but it was nothing too intense. I mean, I guess if you see a craft that's intense, but when you see them after so many times, it's kind of like, okay, nice. Hi guys, thanks for coming. Uh, but yeah, no, I've seen crafts. I've seen um what else have I seen? The rods. The rods fly in. I actually have a photo of the rods I'll share with you guys. We caught it under ultraviolet light, so it looks purple in the film, but I mean, you compare it to a picture you find on Google, it's identical. Like you can't deny that. And it's on a thermal camera. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty nuts. Um the rest of my contact events have kind of been not so much in my head, but like very much out of body experiences where I do meet beings, but they present themselves very like human like very, very human in appearance, but you can tell they're not from here. Like they're clearly different. It's very difficult to describe.
Yeah, I've never had an out of body experience myself, but I've heard of people having them all the time. Like every time they sleep, they have an out of body experience, and they actually lose sleep because you're not really sleeping. You're like conscious, but when you're sleeping,
Mhm. Yeah,
and then you kind of like you're like, I wish I can just have a normal sleep, but you just can't.
no, just so it's funny you say that like, not often, but every now and then I'll smoke some weed just to kind of, week's been rough. Um long days, long weeks, whatever, so I just want to unwind. I find that when I do smoke, I don't make any contact. There's no out of body experiences. It's a good reset for me when I need it. Which is interesting. I don't know if that's just a me thing or other people have tried it, but yeah. I wouldn't say I go out of body every night, but more often than not, I'm having some type of weird experience somewhere.
So when you've seen these lights um, and encounters, is there any communication? Like not, and I don't mean necessarily like, voice or anything, but like, is there any type of like even telepathy kind of thing? Like what goes on in that moment when there is an encounter?
A lot of the time for me, it's just been uh, oddly enough affirmations. Like you're on the right path. You're doing the right thing. You're following the right steps. Um a weird way they make contact with me, which this kind of goes back to my childhood, is I've suffered from migraines my whole life. I have no idea why. I've seen like 7 different specialists. I've done a dozen CAT scans with migraines, without migraines. Nothing shows up on the CAT scans. And if, when I'm a kid and I'm telling my parents my head hurts and they're not taking me seriously until it gets to this point, it's like, okay, what's really going on? And then for nothing to pop up, it's just kind of like, what do you do with that as a parent? And I understand that now, but as a kid, I'm like, I'm not lying. My head really hurts. Help me. What I've come to learn is when I have a migraine, it's kind of them sending me some type of information, some type of download, some type of I don't know, like upgrade that I need to go through. And when I have a migraine, it's there's nothing. Like I'm out like a light. I need to be in the dark. I don't want to talk to anybody. The only other place I'll go outside of my bed, and TMI, I'm sorry, but I go in the shower. I love, love, love just sitting under a shower with hot water on my head. That's like my happy place when I have a migraine. And they say, that your best ideas come from the shower. And that's served to be very, very true for me. So it's weird when I do have a communication with them because a lot of the time you're right, it's not words. It's like, here, this is a big packet of data that you need to download and understand. And in the moment, it's so painful. And then after it, subsides, something somehow comes up and it's like, okay, I can work on this now and I can
I
figure it out.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that because I explained this. I don't know if I explained this in the podcast, one of our previous podcasts, but I'm not gonna go through the whole story. But when someone was channeling a message to me at one point, she said that like what you're experiencing is the downloads, and I was like, I understand this because I actually read a book on this too. I didn't even finish the book. I read like the first chapter of it, and they're like the spiritual downloads that you get, like they're kind of like hard to decipher at first, and you don't really know what's going on. And like whenever I would experience it, I would just feel tired or like I would feel brain fog. That's the way I would feel it.
I have a kind of a similar experience in and talking about it. Like I really, I pay attention to my dreams, and I dream journal. And often when I wake up, right, and I'm sure you guys know this, when you wake up, the dream is just fleeting, right? Like it in 5 seconds, it's gone, and it was so real just a minute ago, right? But when I'm journaling, when I wake up and I'm journaling and I'm recalling those things that happened and kind of like going through it, I have this terrible pain in the back of my head, in a sense, almost like a download torque type of thing, like you say. Like it's like your brain's on overload or something like that, right?
Oh yeah. It's excruciating pain. It's like I said, I can't see light. Like photosensitivity is through the roof. Um, it's just so painful and it's like agonizing. Like I literally describe it as someone drilling nails into my head. And it wasn't up until maybe like a year and a half ago that I realized that this could be downloads from ET, spirit guides, whatever the case is. And I just literally was like, "Can you guys please back off? Like, this is a lot for me. I'm in a lot of pain." And it's scary to the point where like I can almost, when I feel a migraine coming on, depending on what I'm doing that day, I could be like, "I'm not ready for this," or "Okay, I'm ready for this." And I almost like either give it to myself or I don't give it to myself. It really all depends. But yeah, when you ask them for help, when you ask them to kind of take it easy when it comes to this type of communication, they're very responsive. They that's one thing about ETs that just humans are not there yet is their not only like willingness but openness to take direction from you so you're not scared of anything. I've never been scared in any of my contact events, and we're in secluded areas. There's not much out there. It's you in the wilderness. And maybe a porta potty if we can get one there. It's really that, you know, um secluded, but I've never felt an ounce of fear at all. It's always been such a heart opening experience, like very calming, very relaxing, and um a lot of the time I find myself crying because I can't believe what's happening.
I just had a question. Now, if me and Nathan were to do one of these C5 events ourselves, and we went camping, I don't know, I don't when if we had a few days to do it, even if we didn't see anything, or like what is the possibilities of seeing something within like maybe a 3-day period? Like I guess there's no really answer to that, but
So if you're gonna go out camping for like 3 days, it really depends on your mindset. So, two bros going to camp in the woods together, you're going to be doing other things. You're not going to be just setting up camp and like meditating the whole time. You're going to figure out food. You're going to figure out your tents. You're going to figure out fire, toilet situation. You're going to be preparing a lot of things, but you're going to be doing it together. So if you have that cohesion built up, you're already kind of doing the work. When it does come to the meditation and, doing the CE5 protocols, that's when things kind of go whichever direction you guys are at yourselves. Because even if you don't think you have fear, but deep, deep down you do, even a sliver, they won't come.
Mm-hmm.
They just it's funny, a lot of the time I've read other people's, reports and stories on when they do CE5s. Um they talk about how they've been doing it for a year for 2 years, never seen a thing, and then had one of those moments you like see in movies where it's like, if you're there, show me you're there. And that's when they actually see something and they have that like shift experience. It's enough for them to finally go over the edge and actually believe, but not overwhelming enough to be like, oh my God, I'm actually going to meet an ET, you know? Because those
Yeah,
are two
like
of experiences.
yeah, they didn't do it the proper way.
Yeah, and it's almost like they have the wrong intentions. Like when you're doing it, when you're trying to make contact, it's like how you and I or Nathan or you or whoever, when you call somebody, you're calling them with an intent. There's a reason why you're making that call. If your intent's not clear, it's going to be an awkward phone call. Same
Mm-hmm.
concept applies to ETs. If you're making contact because you want to see them do tricks and take pictures of it, you know, if they're feeling playful, sure. Why not? But 9 times out of 10, and this just makes sense, if someone is coming from outside the solar system to help humanity in some type of way, they're not just gonna come and do tricks because you wanna record it and put it on YouTube.
Yes.
So that's my take on it anyway.
Nathan, you have any comments so far?
Whew, well, yeah, I mean, intentions for sure, right? Like, and the cohesion, Shawn and I at least have known each other for a long time. And I think for the both of us, we have a genuine desire just to know what's there, right? This isn't, you know, we're not, um, we're not doing this to sell something, or we're not doing this to, get 1,000 likes on Facebook or something like that, right? Like our intentions are just to be able to experience what is real, and the communication piece, yeah, it's all very interesting. I would probably, if we were going to do this, and I'm interested, I haven't even checked out the app, but I'm again interested in those tones. I'm going to quickly just grab my little drum. I don't know if I've
Okay.
showed you this, John.
Yeah, you might have to turn your background off after.
One
Okay.
second, I'll be one.
No worries. While he's looking for that, I forgot what I was gonna say.
I got it, so no problem. But I am interested in those tones because I could easily bring this and maybe even like write a little song to try to communicate.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys have ever seen these little steel drums, but they're really cool. Like
I'm pretty sure
very
Wafic
good
has
for
seen one of these
meditation.
before. But let's. Maybe you have to turn the back. Oh no. Okay, you're good. You're good.
I actually have one.
Oh, do you?
I have a tongue drum. Yeah. I
Have you
love
ever
it.
used it to try to communicate or?
So I also do Reiki. Like I'm a Reiki practitioner, so I use it more for like chakra healing, balancing. I haven't tried it for contact, and I guess
Hmm.
when it's the tones that are recorded are actually off like a radar detector, like the ones you find in like your car, like to warn you of cops and stuff. What Dr. Greer did is the ETs have the ability to kind of mess with those frequencies and make them make sounds. And he recorded those sounds and gave them to us to be able to use during the meditation. So it's very like, I don't know, like robotic, technical type of sounds. But in my events, we definitely had like crystal singing bowls out. We definitely use all that type of stuff. Like I feel like that's more helpful for the cohesion. Like if somebody is nervous, it's very good to kind of like calm them down. That's how I see like instruments being used. But I can totally see it also being used to like almost signal yourself like, hey, look what I can do. I can show you how I do this. Like a very it's very playful. It's very like childlike, you know? So when you go at it with that type of mentality, yeah, anything's possible.
I I think preparing for the contact, even for a month before with meditations, and even trying to get into that coherent state, with kind of like trying to raise your I always talk about this all the time. Raising your vibration and getting into a higher level will help. Just getting like for contact to actually happen before.
Definitely. If you are somebody who meditates, like I just the 17th, which is my 4-year anniversary, but also my 300th day anniversary of meditating every day, um, twice a day, one in the morning, one at night. But if you're if you're consistent with your meditation and you can get into that state, because I think we can all agree as adults, taking everything out of the picture and just sticking to just meditation for a second. When you meditate, you get into different thought frequencies. You get into a different state of being. You're
Mhm.
not you are when you're in meditation. You're very, very calm. You're very centered. So if you practice that every day, when you transition that to different levels, whether it be Reiki, CE5, spirit guide, tarot, whatever it is, when you can channel that energy out of meditation and into whatever it is you're doing, you'll have much more profoundness, if you will, during those events. So yeah, huge helper.
I wanted to. I was gonna say now. Yeah. So meditation. I think
Can
diet as well can help too, and like getting rid of addictions. Like I mean, like if you have like I mean, like anything that's negative would not like help the it's going in your life. Try to like cut down on like I hear people with who diet really well actually have more chance of having a out of body experience.
Really?
That's I've heard people having that. Yeah.
I can see that. I mean, you are what you eat, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and I mean, from a lot of the um, spirit, like spiritual research I've done, like fasting will often put you into a space of like extreme spiritual space, right? And so that's another interesting one. I'm interested in what you mean when you say you meditate twice a day. So like, what does your meditation look like?
so I wake up at 5 a.m. I do anywhere from a half hour to 45 minutes in the shower. That's where I do a lot of my meditation in the morning. And then depending on how long I shower for, because I'm not perfect, sometimes it's only a 10-minute meditation because I wake up late because I'm tired. But it's always something. I never leave the house not doing a meditation. And it's always in the shower just because, again, that's my happy place. Um, so I do that in the morning, and then before bed, I try to do another half hour to an hour. And it could be just whatever I'm feeling that day. Like if I want to do positive affirmations because I want more abundance, I'll do one of those. If it's a Reiki healing type, I'll do that. If it's a spirit guide one, I'll do that. If it's binaural beats, theta waves, I mean, you name it, I've done it. Like YouTube is a plethora of like hours and hours of meditation. So whatever I'm feeling that day is what I do. And it's always something different because there's always so much content out there to consume, to listen to when you meditate. And sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's just quiet mind, just me in my own head, just balancing my day.
My
I probably
yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
say like I probably only do CE5 maybe like 5-6 times a month now.
That's a big number for me.
Uh like oh yeah, I've cut back a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going through the notes and I want to get through a little bit of it here. Did you want to talk about your relationship with Ed?
Yeah, for sure. So if you haven't seen Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, you won't know who I'm talking about, but I highly, highly recommend you watch it. Even if you don't believe in this stuff, it's an excellent documentary to kind of open your eyes to the subject. But Ed Moen is a man who was deaf from the time he was a kid to the time he was a very, elderly gentleman. Um, wore hearing aids, and he went to one of these events with Dr. Greer and had a healing experience. And he had his healing restored by what he calls the mantis looking ETs. And there's, you can Google this and it's on the internet, but um, there's a photo of the ET being standing next to Ed, and it's almost like he has a tablet in his hand, and it's reflecting light off onto his chest. Um, so out of nowhere, I just kind of ran into him, and we developed a very, very close friendship. He lives very, very close to me, so we that's kind of how we got connected, and we just exchanged numbers, and he's been I like to call him like my grandpa, like the grandpa I never had. He just gives off grandpa vibes. That's just Ed. He's amazing, wise guy, and he's mentored me into a lot of things that have helped me be really a better person, to be honest with you. He's
That's a really touching part of the movie too. I remember when you asked me, you said what was the most, like, I don't know what word you used, profound, or like what was the part of the movie that you found that touched you the most, and that was the one that stood out to me. And I actually wrote, I do new moon manifestations,
hmm
and I actually wrote down I would like to be healed by an ET. And my health situation is always wonky and it's always changing, and half of my problem got fixed before it even happened. And then now I discovered you, and you know Ed. So it's just so random that happened. I'm like, wow, this is just like synchronicity. It's a it's working. I'm on the right path, I think.
confirmation that what you're seeking is coming to you,
Yes.
potentially.
Yeah.
That Oh, Ed is I just got done talking to Ed not too long ago, actually. We were talking earlier this week. He's got some plans for late fall, and um yeah, we're probably gonna meet up soon, and I hope in the next couple months. He's a busy guy, believe it or not. He's one of those people that, like, if you're ever in a small town and you need help with something, he's the guy to help you with it. That's just the person he is now. And he's 68, almost 70. He's
Still
up there.
young. He's still young.
He's still young, yeah.
Total grandpa vibes, like you say. And like I was gonna say that I feel like that it's that's an important part of, I mean, life in general, but also this is having, having those mentors, right? Having those people who can guide you through these things. Because I mean, I it's so hard to do it on your own, right? And or with other, like, me and Shawn, both of us are young and don't have experience in this type of environment, right? Like it'd be nice to have a wise older, person to help guide through the process, and just, yeah, like that grandpa, that warm feeling, like uh that that man who's been there, who's done that, who understands the fears, the anxieties, who's encountered those and can help you get through those difficult pieces.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That is Ed in a nutshell. If and not to say I was ever, afraid, but I I wanted confirmation that what I was experiencing was legitimate. Like I wasn't losing my mind because when you're going down a rabbit hole and you're going by yourself, it's easy to be like, am I crazy or is the world crazy? It's very, very easy. It's a very fine line to either understand it and function and lose your shit.
Hmm.
Um, so for me, when Ed kind of just presented himself and I had the opportunity to develop that relationship with him, it was just a confirmation like, okay, I can process this. This is fine. Like I'm not losing it. And it's a good feeling.
And you're
I want.
setting yourself up to be that wise grandpa figure one day, right? Like
I
you'll be able
certainly
to help the younger people through those. Exactly, right? Like it's and that's how we should think of these things, right? Like to take these learning experiences and know that, there is, I don't like to say the word responsibility, but there is a responsibility to, help the next generation discover themselves and that kind of thing. And with these, like with this getting more known and more widespread, and people are waking up to these spiritual encounters or extraterrestrial encounters, or however you kind of picture it. um, we're going to need that mentorship through the process, because yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like sometimes when I've experienced some of these things, or the fact that I believe that these things exist, or that there's this possibility, sometimes I'm the same way. I'm like, am I crazy? Like, like it's hard to accept that sometimes.
it yeah, what you're saying is completely like resonating with me. Like it's 100% that way. And it's part of me used to think it was so sad because it's like, are we this divided that if someone has an experience, we instantly shoot it down because it didn't happen to us, it can't happen? And that's why, like, when I had that realization, I was like, no. Like, if somebody is genuinely saying they experienced something or have seen something or going through something, the best thing to do is not care if it's true or not, but to be there for them. Because even if they are lying, it's just something that they need to heal within themselves and they're looking for somebody. And unfortunately, it comes out as lying, but as long as you're there for the person, it's only going to benefit them. Now, again, I mean, we all have the sense of, we have a BS meter and we can tell if somebody's BSing us or not. But if someone's being genuine, I think we're smart enough to figure out, like, hey, I don't care if you're telling me the truth or not. I just want to be there for you so you know it's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when when what's there to gain out of this, right? Especially when it's hard for somebody to come forward with those type of things. My BS meter usually rings pretty low, right? Like if nobody if they're walking around flaunting like, oh, I just encountered an alien or something like that, right?
Hmm.
That my BS meter goes up, right? But when it's subtlety and when it's like, hey, like, can I tell you about what happened to me and that kind of, right? Like when there's almost uh, an uncertainty of whether you're going to accept them or not, right? It's like, why would they be BSing right now, right? Like, why would they make that up? That doesn't make any sense. If anything, they're putting themselves at risk for losing my friendship in a sense, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, I don't think people would do that willingly just to make something up or to try to, I don't know, seem cool or something like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I, yeah, I completely agree. Like, if you're making shit up to just make shit up, it's like, okay, like, what, I can't process that. Like, I don't understand. So I get
It's
it.
I
I
it's
totally.
just an ego thing. I guess it's their conditioning, it's their belief system that thinking that lying gets them further up the ego chain or whatever their belief is.
Right.
Mhm.
So
Whatever concocted in their head. And some people live off that. I mean, I don't want to get political, but I mean, look at the people running the world. They don't care about us. They care about their egos. Look what I did. Look what I have. Look what I've done. Fuck out of here, dude. That is not the way to run the world, but I don't want to get down that rabbit hole.
yeah,
Yeah, because I was gonna say the same thing. There are a lot of people where their entire life is just BSing, right? But I feel like I can see through that pretty quickly now. Like, you know, you can see when somebody's just stroking their ego.
Yeah,
I wanted to get to the next part of this where you're saying where you see humanity's place in the universe and where you think humanity must get like on a spiritual level
right.
for us to go elsewhere. Maybe planetary traveling. I don't know. Maybe just through out of body experiences. I'm not sure.
So I guess my thought process on this is we as a species are not getting anywhere with the way things have been. I'm gonna say the last 50 to 100 years. There's 50 to 100 years of advancement that has just been lost due to greed, power, destruction, wars, famine, racism. Like when you take a step back and you look at something like, let's just take racism for example. You take a step back and you look at that and like really break it down. You're really not a fan of another person because of the color of their skin or what they believe in or who they are as a person. And like, I mean, granted, there are fine lines. Like, if there's legitimately like bad people, then yeah, we don't want to associate with those. Um, but we can't even get along with each other. How are we going to get along with people in the cosmos? So the first step for humanity is to really like stop hating on each other and start lifting up people. Like it's so cheesy to say that, but it's the truth. Stop bringing each other down, start lifting each other up, and we're one step closer to a universal consciousness where we don't have, poverty. We don't have hunger. We don't have issues with money. There's abundance for everybody. And it's all there. It's all ready for us to just grab it and go. But for
Yeah.
whatever reason, we're stuck in this cycle. So for some people, I like to think a lot of humanity is waking up to that. And they are realizing, I don't want to paint this like dark cloud picture. Like, no, there is a there are rays of hope here. Like there are a lot of people who are waking up. There are a lot of like-minded people who think this way. And I know there's a shift coming. It's just a matter of time when that tilt of 1% comes. And once we hit that tilt, then we'll be living a much different type of existence. But
Yeah.
it's collective.
In the collective, yeah. I had a comment. I'll come back to it if someone wants to pick up.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. That whole instead of putting people down, raising each other up, right? Like we should see it as a common collective. And too often I find that unfortunately, there is a high percentage of people who are programmed to put other people down, right? And instead of, I always like to think of it like, like we're all like here. And so instead of trying to work, like help each other move up, somebody has the thought that like it's the competition, right? Like they see them up here. Well, I'm going to try to bring them down below my level instead of trying to raise themselves up to their level in a sense. You know what I mean? So like their
Totally.
whole orientation is based on comparison instead of that cohesion, that build up, right? And again, that's another ego thing, right? And I think we just need to continue to work as a community, as a society, as a species, to rid ourselves of that terrible ego, that horrible pride in a sense, right? Like, and
Yeah,
the hate, right? Like rid ourselves of that hate.
I think like because everything starts with yourself, like universe, like what you put out into the world, you get kind of reflection back to you. So I think like us putting out this type of content into the universe ripples like our very first episode is the butterfly versus the domino effect. Everything that we do is a ripple, and it just even if we just touch one person, that one person might touch another person with their story, sharing it with other people. And that's why I like doing podcasts. I like doing content creation and positive content creation. It has to be uplifting. It can't just be mindless. I think that's why I'm starting to transition more into this type of like mindset. And us as a species, like humans as a species, we're so conditioned by our environment. Like we have to cut our ties with negative um circles and get out of these toxic environments and toxic people that you're with, because they'll learn once they don't have anybody to, like, if you're that person in the circle that they're picking on, and then you leave, then everybody else leaves that person, then they start to wake up themselves. It's a ripple effect. It all
Yeah.
starts with yourself. So you have to help yourself first. You got to put on your mask before you put on the other person's mask. Like in an airplane when there's
Yeah.
turbulence. But like, hopefully you can understand what I'm getting at.
No, 100%. You're absolutely right. You do have to start with yourself, and that falls into like so many different categories of you as a person that can go. If you don't love yourself, how can you expect another person to love you? If you can't help yourself, how can you help another person? Um, that's 110% right, and that's really what is going to drive building America, not America, excuse me, building the world. That's really what it comes down to. Building America is, I don't know about that one, but I can only hope that things get better, and I do have a positive outlook on the future. I think by the time my time comes to pass on into the next level of existence, whatever that may be, um, I think we're gonna see some major, major changes.
Okay. Yeah, I believe so too. Like having a pause, having a positive outlook, having goals, and implementing them.
Yeah,
Those
Loving
steps.
yourself in that process, like you say, like that, loving yourself and loving others, and I think it works hand in hand, right? Like, and if you do love yourself, then it is easier to love others, and if you forgive your own misgivings, then it's easier to forgive other people their misgivings. And yeah, for sure, I'm big on all that positive. What you send out is what you get back, and it's not always immediate, right? Like, it's not just, oh, I'm gonna go out today with positive intentions, and then like everything just falls in your lap. Often it's the opposite, right? Like you go out with positive intentions, and all of a sudden shit falls on you, right? Almost like a test in a sense, like, but
Hmm.
it's the process of it that gets you into that space of loving yourself. Um and yeah, we all have trials. We all have things that we have. That's life, right? Like you can't go without it. It just makes the good days and the good times that much better, right? It's almost like a spectrum, right? If we didn't have bad days, we wouldn't know what good days are. If we
exactly.
didn't experience hurt, we wouldn't know what true joy really is like, right? That's how I try to rationalize those things and try to explain those things to people too, right? Like, yeah, you're going through a season of difficulty, but it's when you get into that season of 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 um, of positivity, you're gonna realize why, right? And it's gonna feel that much better. And through that process of getting through the struggles, right? That's what builds character. That's what makes you human. Those are the things that allow you to enjoy the good things.
Yeah, and there's a Sadhguru. I don't know if you follow Sadhguru, but he has a quote that says, there are people in the world who ask, what is the purpose of life? What is the what is the goal of my life? What am I supposed to do? If you ask that question, that means there's a part of you that is not experiencing joy. Because when you are experiencing joy, you would never think to ask, what am I supposed to do with my life? You know, we're built to have blissful, joyful moments, but we have to experience them in a lot of different ways. And a lot of it is negative, a lot of it is positive. And it's finding that balance. No
Mm.
no one becomes who they are by a never-ending amount of good experiences. You have to have your trials, you have to have your tribulations. That's comes with the territory of being a human, you know? Endless states of bliss nonstop, that may come in like, whatever you believe in, an afterlife, reincarnation, going back to source, experiencing ETs, like being an ET, like whatever it is, that can happen then. But if you're here on Earth, you're here to experience the full spectrum of everything.
All
Like
right.
that. If you say that, what is my purpose? If you're mulling over that, then yeah, then you're not experiencing joy, right? Like you're not embracing the day, embracing the moment. I mean, I've struggled with that a
Oh yeah,
million times, right? Like what is my purpose? And when I've had really difficult seasons, especially, right? Like what am I doing here? What's the point? But the older I get, the more I look back on those difficult seasons as training, almost in a sense, as like strengthening myself and building character, and it makes it that much easier to overcome the next trial that comes, and it makes those next seasons of joy that much brighter and better. And that's the kind of, to me, just what you've talked about with the ETs. It feels like that's the type of energy that they bring. Like I like how you say like they're playful. It's almost like there's there's a desire for joy within their spirit in a sense, right? Like
100%. It's like, if you've ever seen like a toddler like learn to play toys, like I have two nieces, like two baby nieces that are about to turn 2, and like just to watch them grow and to watch them learn and like watch their personalities develop, like that's something you can't appreciate unless you've like watched like a real child grow up. But that wonderment that's in a child eye when they like play with a toy for the first time, or they learn about a song for the first time, or learn how to speak and yell and all this for the first time, it's like it's that type of energy when it comes to like making contact with an ET, because they're like, you're so intrigued in them and they're so intrigued in you, and it's like, what can we learn from it's I understand where the fear comes from, because Hollywood does a really good job of making us afraid of alien.
Everything.
Yeah, but once you experience it, it's difficult to like, and I laugh at stuff like that now. Like back then, yeah, sure, I was afraid. Who wouldn't be? We didn't know better. But it's like you said, as you get older and you have experiences and you go through the shit, you kind of look back and you're like, man, this is stupid. Like it is. Like aliens don't want to eat us. Like, can we just get past that? They don't want to eat us. They don't want to mess with our insides or implant things. They don't want to do that.
Yeah. Um,
mm.
I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to go over. If Nathan, you have any end questions you want to talk about?
No, I mean my brain is packed full. And just even that last little tidbit was, I think, perfect for you and I, Shawn, to explore
Mm-hmm.
in our search. That lack of fear and that childlike energy to bring forth the excitement of a new experience, not like the fear, or not the like, I'm going to be disappointed if I don't see this. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? Like the intention has to be like, well, I'm just open to a new experience, and the childlike wonderment of being able to experience something like that, like a new song or like a new
mm-hmm.
toy or like a new color you might see or something like that, right? To bring
Like
that to it.
I like how Wafic was explaining the aliens were like toying with him with doing the laundry, doing the dishes. I think they like to see how intelligent we are with signals. I think that's what it is. Like they'll signal you to do something and be like, "Does he get it? Let's see if he gets it." And I experienced that already with spirit guides and spirit animals, and I've been seeing a lot of spirit animals recently. Like it's like I was spiriting numerology for a while. I still do, but now it's just like spirit animals. Just like they're like you need to meditate more often. I'm like, okay, I get it now. But yeah, definitely gonna do that. Um, but I think
Yeah,
this is a whole new level. This is gonna be. Even if I don't experience anything right away, it's practice. It's like you gotta practice makes not perfect, but practice makes improvement.
Definitely. I like.
you have to enjoy the moment. Oh,
Oh, I'm
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry.
sorry, I was gonna say that, like, regardless, we should just enjoy the time outside, right? Or the meditation in and of itself, right? And so if
Mm-hmm.
we're enjoying that process and saying, hey, we're open to communication, but like I'm not going to go away butthurt if there's no communication, right? I'm going to enjoy this experience regardless of what happens with it. And I think that's the mentality to bring, right?
Yeah, it
And
has to be an unconditional, like a non. You have no conditions on the experience for it to happen.
mm, would you agree with that?
100%. I wouldn't have said it any other way. Go out there, go have fun. If anything, even if you don't see anything, you're bound to at least see stars. You're bound to probably see Starlink satellites. You're bound to enjoy the time you are with the people surrounded by you. And if you don't see that as a win, CE5 is not for you, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Love
good
it.
call.
Love it, Wafik. Love having you on the podcast. And I don't know, maybe we could do another one in the future. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I kind of wanted to talk about star seeds in the future if you're down, but sorry.
I would love to.
Perfect. Yes. Every
Well,
time I talk over you, I can't hear you. So can you repeat what you said?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say I would love to. Like, I'd be honored to come back if you guys would have me and go over star seeds, which one of my favorite topics to go over.
Perfect.
well, I don't really know much about star seeds at all, so I would enjoy that conversation, and have really enjoyed getting to know you. And definitely, let's stay in contact. We'll let you know about when we make our journey out into the stars. And yeah, this was a great conversation. So glad you could join us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you guys so much for having me. And if you guys do end up planning that trip, just send me your coordinates and I'll uh I'll send my friends over.
Sweet.
Cool.
So I'm excited. I'm gonna stop the recording now. We can talk a little bit after that, for a little bit, and then yeah, I'm gonna end it here.
For
So.
sure.